If they weren't still in the Europa League, would Ange be gone this morning?
I don't know how you can argue for him. Tottenham are poor. I'll have a wager with you now, whatever quantum you want to pick, that Nottingham Forest will not finish above the position they put in the league this season. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm not going to die on this hill. You said you're going to progress. So are you now saying your losers' mentality has moved towards relegation again?
No, not at all.
What are you picking a fight for then? What we're now talking about is progress, and now you've gone back to relegation again. So make your mind up. I think some of the things that comes out of his mouth are a load of old tosh. Pathetic.
So where do we start after all that? Nottingham Forest moved back into Champions League contention with a win at Tottenham. What is this, Simon? Should it be a chastening night for the Spurs hierarchy that this is a man they sacked 4 years ago? Is guiding Forest towards Europe while they lie 16th? I mean, Nuno, where are you at with Nuno? Where is your mind with Nuno? Because he got chased out of Tottenham.
Well, he was the wrong fit. For lots of reasons, and the way that Nottingham Forest play is very pragmatic, very effective, very efficient. Two wide players that get on the ball and they play in a certain way, and that's to some extent not the way that Tottenham Hotspur play. And so the fit or would want to play, and whether it will stand Forest in good stead beyond this season, time will tell.
Yeah,
I think they've done brilliantly. They've made the very best of everything they've got, and as a collective, they're a very good unit. You look at the game yesterday and you just scratch your head. For half an hour, you try to work out what Tottenham are. They're a bag of profligacy against bad structure, against bad outcomes. You know, to have 26 shots on goal, and to have the kind of, I know XG is a lot of old crap, but it's part and parcel of the people's thinking. Yeah. To have the kind of XG that Spurs had, to miss the chances that they had, and to be all over the place at times as a structural unit. I mean, Danny Murphy talks about the fact that he doesn't believe that Ange knows how to set up a side. And at times you look at that Tottenham side and you think, well, where is the structure when moments of adversity come on?
Yeah.
So you look at that game and say, I don't look at it and say, well, look at the wonderfulness of Nuno Espirito Santo. And if I'm Daniel Levy, I'm looking at what I could have had. No, I don't look at it that way. Nottingham Forest have a different dynamic about them than, say, Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur are in a Europa League situation and have opportunities there. So they may quench the flames of discontent. I don't think they will.
If they weren't still in the Europa League, would Ange be gone this morning?
I don't know how you can argue for him.
Yeah.
I don't like to argue against him because I like him.
I know.
And I liked the opportunity that he was given, and I thought he might be the right person for it. But you cannot be sitting in the position that you're in because Tottenham are poor.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised they got through against Frankfurt. They might tell you more about Frankfurt than against Tottenham.
I mean, maybe being sacked by Tottenham was the best thing that could have happened to Nuno.
I don't think getting sacked.
I mean, look at me now.
Yeah, again, you have to give him all the credit in the world. You know, he was great at Wolverhampton Wanderers for a period of time, and then it all fell apart a little bit at the end. He went to Tottenham, he went over to Saudi, he's come back to Nottingham Forest.
He's got more opportunity, I would have thought, at Forest. Well, more ambition at Forest.
Well, currently,
the boardroom.
I mean, of course, because Marinakis
is in go for it.
Has made his position very clear.
Yeah.
I think that what Nottingham Forest are operating at is the highest level they could operate at. They're operating at 100% in most of the games, and that's a very difficult level to sustain their outcomes. Look at Chris Wood. You've never seen this player. When people show you what they are, believe them. And we've seen Chris Wood's career. And so this moment in time...
You still think it's a moment in time?
It's a James Beattie moment. James Beattie was a great player for Southampton, scored great goals for a period of time, and all of a sudden he was in the England setup and everyone raved about him. And whilst he was a good player, I tried to sign him. He was a good player. He didn't go on from that. And obviously Chris Wood has had this moment in time where he's been wonderful for Nottingham Forest. I don't want to diminish anything about them. I think the two wingers, I think Alanga's been a revelation. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi has been fantastic. I think you look across their midfield, they're very committed. Their centre-halves are a good unit. But I would be surprised if this unit can operate at this level. And then it's about how you change it up and what you buy. And when you start to buy bigger and bolder and better players that are less about the collective and more about the individual, can you keep that structure?
But they're going to kick on again in the summer. This unit is going to be kicked on again in the summer. You have to think, it's not just a moment in time.
They're going to kick on, perhaps economically, and buy more players. That doesn't necessarily translate to kicking on the field. I don't want to take anything away from Forest. I think to have won that game last night, if you want to win a game on a Monday night, you play Tottenham after a European game, because Tottenham they're just there to be beaten half the time. And the fact of the matter is that Tottenham are to me, they're a frustrating watch, because you look at it, you think, you try and put yourself in a position of being a Tottenham fan and wonder what they must be thinking about their side.
Yeah.
Because they're getting beat week in, week out, and they keep on recouping things or getting things back and snatching, ultimate defeat or
Yeah.
victory from the jaws of defeat because you beat Frankfurt, you go out on Monday, give the fans something to cheer about. No, we're going to stink the place out and go 2-0 down. Could have been 3.
Well, exactly. And off the back of what you've just said, Simon, this was Ange's taking it.
It's another game we've lost where we shouldn't lose, and it's been, a big part of our season in that we just making things really difficult for ourselves in key moments. Just a little bit of concentration and giving away poor goals. It's a shame because our football was outstanding. We totally dominated the game, and even for the 2 goals we conceded, I still felt we deserved to win the game. But at the same time, it's another loss, and it's another unacceptable loss. And
They're sloppy and careless, Jim.
Well,
for us.
If it's unacceptable, why? In another part of that answer, is he talking them up? That's what I don't understand. Is it becoming easier, Simon, or harder to make a case for Ange at Tottenham next season?
No, there's not a case to be made for him.
He will not be in charge next season.
I doubt it. I don't wish it upon him, but they're sloppy and careless. They look at their goalkeeper. The goalkeeper should have saved the first goal. Sloppy, careless, not paying enough attention, not being on top of their games. The second goal, they should have shut the cross down, should have defended the ball better. And both of those goals were avoidable. It's sloppy and careless. It's sloppy and careless thinking from the manager. It's sloppy and careless structure. So it replicates itself in the players' mentality and how tuned into the game they are.
Yeah.
They're not on top of their games. And so when it comes to moments in time, a goalkeeper of that quality should not be beaten by that, irrespective of a deflection of Bentancur, irrespective of the challenges that come with the ball coming through a crowd of people, should have saved it. But they were asking to concede goals because they're sloppy and they're careless. And it's all well and good saying you come back and you batter teams. But when you're 2-0 down, it's a very difficult, and against a side like Nottingham Forest that have proven that they can weather storms. So don't get yourself 2-0 down against a side that know that they can bank up, that can stop you from conceding or scoring goals against them.
But I want to put this to you as we head to the break. What if, now they're in the semi-finals of the Europa League, and it's Bodo Glimt, and he says he wins a trophy in his second season.
Yep.
Let's say he does. It's a Champions League in so doing for Tottenham next season, and Daniel's like, lovely.
Yeah, economically, yeah.
So can we make a case for him?
Yeah, of course.
That he stays?
You can make an argument for it in the same way you can make an argument for Marcus Rashford being signed by Aston Villa. And then you look further down the line and go, what does that look like when it all comes on top? What does it look like when all the gloss comes off and we actually pare it back and look at what we've got? We're looking at a very, very poor performance in the Premier League, which is our bread and butter. We've cost ourselves 10 league positions probably, circa 10 league positions. There's 30 million quid. The money that we got from the Champions League for going into the Champions League, the 30 million quid, we gave away in league positions.
Yeah.
So Daniel will look at it from that point of view.
Yeah.
What's a team being built upon? It's being built upon sand because there's not enough from those group of players. And why isn't there enough? Because I don't believe they're on board with the manager anymore for whatever reason. Whether they don't buy into his tactics, or his tactics aren't clear, or this gung ho mentality that he seems to believe that this sort of a more sophisticated, refined version of Osvaldo Ardiles all those years ago is a way to go.
What do you mean by you don't think they're on board with Postecoglou anymore?
But they're sloppy, and
they're not doing it for him now.
Well, they're not doing it for themselves first, but they're not doing it for their manager second, because as a result of their performances, the team gets beaten, they lose. The fans get fed up with them. The manager gets barracked, and the owner gets told he's useless. So all of it is together, a collective. But I looked at that Spurs side last night. One of my closest friends texted me before the game saying, this shower of whatever, who's a rabid Spurs fan, are going to get done 2-0. I said, no. Forest are nervous. I think you'll find this might be a more difficult game. Bang, 2-0 down.
Yeah.
Going, I told you.
Yeah. But before we hit the break, I want to ask you this. Is winning the Europa League, though, surely not just rewarding mediocrity? Tottenham could end up winning this thing, right?
Yeah.
But they could end up 17th in the Premier League and could end up in the Champions League.
Yeah. But that is the nature of the beast. And that's why sometimes when you look at these European competitions and people ask me a question and then they get all bent out of shape when I say Arsenal winning the Champions League is not as compelling as them winning the Premier League, and they get all nasty about it because I'm appearing to criticise them. That's the argument. That's the same argument.
Yeah.
This is off a different scale.
Yeah.
So if you finish 17th in the league and go and win the Europa competition, what does it tell you about the rest of Europe? What does it tell you about that competition in and of itself?
Right.
And of course, it's not a reflection back on Tottenham Hotspur as a domestic outfit, because your bread and butter is your domestic form.
May as well park a bus early on Tottenham, and why not? Is it becoming easier or harder to make a case for Ange at Tottenham next season? Even if he wins the Europa League, do you expect him to be there next season? Many Tottenham fans calling in. They get through to the Europa League semi-finals and then they lose to Nottingham Forest. No shame in that. Nottingham Forest have been great, but losing is something that Tottenham have got used to, sadly. This was Tottenham's 18th Premier League defeat of the season. Jim, says Dave, Ange is a fraud and a bluffer. He talks a big game but can't deliver. There's another one. Jim Simon, Ange needs to go. We've seen it now for so long. Honestly, it cannot go on. There's someone in the US wants to have a word with us. We might have a word with you. We'll see if we can get to you. Jim, Ange needs to leave. He's got to go today. Today, you're in a Europa League semi-final. He says he's delusional. He's embarrassing himself. Daniel Levy's got to do the right thing. Simon, you can see these messages one after the other. Tony's an Arsenal fan who I think wants his say on Tottenham and Ange. Now, is this going to be tongue-in-cheek, Tony? Good morning.
Absolutely not. Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, mate. Welcome.
So I just think that basically it shows a lack of depth in the Spurs squad. I'm a football fan first and foremost, but Arsenal, obviously. And I don't think Ange is a fraud. I think he's put his neck on the line. He's been massively brave with it. I like him. I can't stand Tottenham, obviously, but I do like him and I can't deny it. And I think it actually highlights how bad Levy has let Tottenham's squad get. The fact that they can't turn over sides that they should be beating. I'm not talking about Forest here. I'm talking about like the 17, 18 losses that they've had this season.
Yeah.
And Ange has probably looked at it and gone, the only way we're going to get Champions League football this year is if we deliver on the Europa League stage.
Of course.
Is it Ange that's at fault, or is it Daniel Levy who's probably not turned around and give him the backing for the players?
Yeah.
And he said, right, okay, if I've got the whole season, I'll put us in the Champions League. I'll prove that I can do it.
Yeah.
And he'll fall on his sword if he wants to.
Tony, I'm looking at messages coming in following the fact that you have joined us live and that you're an Arsenal fan. There are three all saying, doesn't Tony, the Arsenal fan, have bigger fish to fry? They're not wrong, are they?
Yeah, but your conversation was around Tottenham.
It was.
Yeah, we do have bigger fish to fry, and hopefully we'll go on and win the Champions League. But I think you're talking about an individual and a person here.
Yes.
And the criticism that's coming in for Ange, I can understand why Tottenham fans are frustrated. They're watching it week in, week out.
Yeah.
But if he puts them in the Champions League, what's the pressure then next year on Levy around the strength of the squad? Because it could get embarrassing in the Champions League, and that's not what Tottenham are going to want with the stadium. It's definitely not what Levy's going to want, and I think Ange is playing quite a cute game, personally.
Listen, thank you very much indeed, Tony. Simon, you know how Daniel works. No doubt.
450 million euros Ange Postecoglou's had to spend.
450 million euros. What, you just calculated this here?
I'm just looking at the two transfer spends over the 2 seasons that he's been a manager. So there's £400 million has been spent on players. At what point do you point your finger at the manager alongside the owner and say, well, how much money do you have to be given? You've been given 400 million, and now you're saying it's a lack of depth to beat teams like Ipswich,
okay,
and a poorly assembled Crystal Palace at the beginning of the season.
I'm just seeing a quote that Christian Romero gave to TYC Sports yesterday, the Argentinian broadcaster, post-match.
I'm sure it's helpful.
Bearing in mind they've just thrown up the 18th Premier League loss of the season. La Liga is left for me to play in. I would love to tell you the truth. I would love to play there because it's the league I'm missing, says Romero. What would you do if you were Levy and you read that?
Well, I think the die is cast on Romero anyway. I think there's already an established position that he's probably like to go at the end of the season. He's a very good player, but there's a couple of times I've seen him over the years at Spurs where he thinks he's bigger than the club, and some of his performances have exhibited that at times he's got more quality than the current framework has allowed it to manifest itself in the rest of the team. I don't think it's very helpful. I don't think it was helpful a couple of years ago where he was a player that clearly felt that he didn't belong in this position, he belonged somewhere else. But you signed for Tottenham, your job is to perform for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Listen, context is everything. If people are asking him the question rather than him volunteering the information, he can stay Sturm, or he can say my lifetime's ambitions at some point is to play in La Liga. But I think it's already been established. We were talking about it last week, weren't we? That Romero is likely to be going out the door, and Tottenham will rebuild with the right culture person. I mean, Van der Ven is a good player.
Yeah.
Him being back in the mix. There's some good players in this Tottenham side that should be doing a lot better.
There's Mike, who's a Tottenham fan, who's a Forest fan. Who cares about Tottenham, says Mike. Get the subject matter onto Forest. Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right in that. So we will. Just 3 points now separate Forest in third to Aston Villa in 7th. And Forest are preparing for an FA Cup semi-final against Manchester City on Sunday. So not only have Forest moved back into Champions League contention with that win at Tottenham, you've got an FA Cup semi-final to look forward to and maybe a final after that. Sean is a big Forest fan. Sean, good morning. What is your thinking?
Morning, chaps. How are we doing?
Good, thank you. Where are you with your beloved Forest then?
I just wanted to address Simon, saying that the squad are performing at 100%. Can I ask Simon what you're basing that on?
I think if you look at the analysis and we talk about various things that are provided information-wise and the efficiencies of the side, that the amount of attacks that they have to score goals is so effective. You're operating at your highest level all the time. Your players are performing on a week-in, week-in basis at a level that is at its highest level. So I think you're running on full throttle. It's not a criticism. If you look at the Opta stats that say the amount of attacks it takes, the shots on goal that it takes for Forest to score goals is better than most teams in the league. That's what I mean when I say you're operating at 100%.
So by saying operating at 100%, are you saying that players like Murillo of 22 years old, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White of 25 years old, that these players haven't got more to give?
I'm talking about the team as a collective. And I use specific.
You only give Chris Wood as an example.
I use Chris Wood as an example.
That's all well and good, Simon. Yeah. What about the players who haven't even reached the primes of their careers yet? I just think you're wrong in what you're saying.
Well, time will tell, won't it? I mean, ultimately, Alanga has, I thought, been brilliant this season. I don't think he was brilliant at Man United. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi has been a potential player for years, but it was moved out of the door for Chelsea. I think as a collective, you're a team to be proud of. Do I think you can sustain this level of attainment ad infinitum? You say there's more growth from these players, and you might be right. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm not going to die on this hill. No, sure. I don't need to be right.
Sean, do you think Forest kick on next season?
I certainly do, certainly with the investment if needs be. But not only that, we've got a lot of young players within this squad that have got far more to give. The experience that they're going to have gained this season and previous seasons of just escaping relegation in the Premiership. But Simon yet tipped us as favourites to go down, and yet again I just love the negative that is often thrown against.
Well, first and foremost, I have spent the entire time I've been on air in the media waxing lyrical about my admiration for Nottingham Forest as a football club, because I grew up admiring them, and every time I get an opportunity to praise Nottingham Forest, I take it. So get over that persecution complex.
But you haven't seen it's a moment in time.
But I do think I will wager you, if you're talking about progress, and I don't know what you think progress is, but to me it's keep on evolving and achieving more than you did in the previous season. I'll have a wager with you now, for whatever quantum you want to pick, that Nottingham Forest will not finish above the position they put in the league this season. So if they finish third this year, I'll have a bet with you that they won't finish second next year.
I'll wager you that we won't get relegated this season.
No, that's not the point. If you finish around the bottom, a circle around the drain pipe a few times, it's normally what follows is you get relegated. So it was a reasonable, albeit flawed, perspective, and I've climbed back I've rode back.
So I'll wager you on that perspective.
No, I'm not going to wager you about relegation. You said you're going to progress. So are you now saying your losers' mentality has moved towards relegation again?
No, not at all.
Well, what are you picking a fight for then?
I'm saying that as a team, we're progressing at a high rate of knots, and rightly so. I'll be the first.
What does progression look like then? Not relegation, because you've made it about relegation now. So what's progression look like?
Avoid this season for me, and any other Forest fan around the globe would be lying if they said that we'd have been finishing in Champions League places this season.
But you're picking a fight with me about my observations.
However. There'd have been a hell of a lot of Forest fans that would have took your money and said that we'd have happily wagered that we wouldn't be relegated.
And I'd have had to pony up because I've swallowed that particular crow. But what we're now talking about is progress. And now you've gone back to relegation again. So make your mind up.
Ben Whittaker, well, he did it, Simon. He beat Liam Cameron, a second-round stoppage, and he won the light heavyweight rematch in Birmingham. Some controversy attached to it, and his celebrations after it. But this was Whittaker after the fight.
Listen, we didn't prove anybody wrong. We knew what we could do. And at the end of the day, I just had to just go and show it. Like I said, my lifestyle was getting crazy. I was moving at 100 miles an hour. I was messing around. I was doing these things, but Saturday needed to happen to me. And what's happened is it showed the real fighter I am.
But also the manner in which you won tonight.
Yeah.
Very, very emphatic.
Yeah. I knew I could do it. That's why all that 10 round, 12 round stuff didn't really bother me, because I knew it wouldn't go that long. I probably should have done it. I would have got more money. But that was a boxer issue, and it's nothing to do with me.
You had no remonstration from Liam afterwards, no complaints about the stoppage?
No, he said he's never been hit like that, and fair play. But at the end of the day, like I said, that hatred between us, there was no hatred on my part. I was kind of happy it happened to me, because like I said, it made me, you see me, I wasn't on social media, I wasn't doing things like that. I just stayed away from...
You did your talking in the ring tonight.
That's it. You know, I am humble, but I am flashy, and I thought, you know what, this build up, let my boxing talk for itself.
Well, it was flashy to an extent after the fight itself, because as the referee moved in and called it off and Whittaker won it, Whittaker ran over to the opposite corner and began shouting at Cameron's team. That didn't go down with some people. Dave Caldwell, the trainer, was one of them. What's your take on it? Is it not a time to win, but win with dignity?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, I think he was called a quitter by the corner. I think Liam Cameron and his corner referred to Ben Whittaker as a quitter. And so there's one thing you can't call a fighter, whether you think he is or he isn't, is a quitter. Footballers don't like being called cheats. Boxers don't like being called quitters. No. It's a sport that has a unique dynamic about it.
But they weren't the only ones that said he was maybe a quitter.
But they were the ones, they're the professional side of the argument. The fans want to call him. They can do nothing about that. He was very emotionally charged, and he went and gave him a mouthful. That was it. I thought Sky's line of questioning about did you spit at them was pathetic, unnecessary. I think in an ideal world, he could have had a bit more decorum. In the real world, where emotions get the better of you, you want to fight. Frankly, you want to fight. You should have done this in the first fight. Or what he did on Sunday night was no more than what he should have done in the first fight.
Yeah.
And I said throughout this debate about him that he would win this fight. I didn't see him stopping Liam Cameron inside 2 rounds. But the moment I started to hear about Liam Cameron getting life-changing money and so on and so forth, I felt to myself, all of the dynamics are wrong. I watched him come to that dressing room. He didn't look at ease. He didn't look at ease when he got in the ring. He looked like it was all a bit too much for him. And Whittaker did the job that he should have done. Liam Cameron was brought in to progress Ben Whittaker's career. And if Ben Whittaker has gone off the rails and got carried away with himself after 8 fights, then he wants to have a word with himself.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And now he's got back on track.
Do you think he'll go on and beat better people than Cameron?
I think there's still questions. I think he's a remarkable talent. I like him a lot. I like him as a fighter. I never was in the camp of arguing against the charisma and the showboating. I don't understand why people want to dislike that. I think that separates people. It makes people stand out from the crowd. But I still think there's questions to be asked and answered about where he goes next. He put him against a Dan Aziz. He won't blast Dan Aziz out like that. And fighters at that level. So there's a lot to be answered about Ben Whittaker, but I still think he's a remarkable talent. I still think he's a very charismatic young man. I think he's a very nice young man as well. And something, I mean, when he talks about the reasons why there was no hatred, there wasn't a hatred, Ben. You were disrespectful and disdainful towards your opponent. You treated him as if he was less than in the first fight. And in the second fight, you sat at press conferences eating your dinner and being a bit facetious and clever until probably Andy Lee got in your ear and went, pack it in. Let's get back to basics. Yeah. Let's get back to the job in hand. Yeah. You will be a star when you are a star.
Well, somebody's going to emerge as a star this Saturday night, because that's when Eubank and Ben get down to business, and we'll see who wins the build-up right here on talkSPORT. We know this Tuesday morning where Leeds United and Burnley are going. They are heading to the Premier League. They've done it. But now that they've done it, can they stay there? Because in the past, the men in charge of Leeds and Burnley, respectively Daniel Farke and Scott Parker, have not managed to keep their clubs in the Premier League after they got there. Farke with Norwich, Parker with Fulham and Bournemouth. Is that about to change? Lee, the Burnley fan, will take his opportunity to join us live. Lee, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, gents. Great show as always.
Thank you very much, Lee. How are you feeling about this? I mean, the question is there. Yes, you're back, but can you stay there, Lee?
Honestly, heart versus head. Obviously, no, I don't think we can. I think the gulf has been way too big, and it's only growing. Look at this year. It looks like the 3 are going down. I think Ipswich are still there or thereabouts, but hanging on by the skin of the teeth. And that just means, the 17 teams that are in there, they've had 2 years of the money, 2 years of building the reputation, 2 years of getting the players in, 2 years of Premiership experience. And I just think the gulf is too big, to be honest.
You think so? Now, there is the voice of realism, isn't it?
I think sorry, you go ahead.
Here's Simon, Lee, on you go.
No, but I think Lee makes a solid point. But I think you also have to compare the fact Southampton have been pathetic. They've been pathetic. And Leicester haven't been much better. And the only ones that have made a fist of it are Ipswich, and they haven't been much better. As much as I like Kieran McKenna and as much as I like Mark Ashton, they've been poor. And Burnley are built from different stuff than these 3 sides.
Okay.
So I think that they may go down, but I don't think they'll go down like Southampton have gone down, or like Leicester have gone down.
Sure, you'll put up a fight, Lee, a real fight.
Yeah. Obviously, I want us to, and I do think we will. I think Scott Parker could only learn from his, 2 previous failed attempts, and obviously Burnley's most recent one under Vincent Kompany. We tried to do it kind of what Southampton have done, tried to play our
Lee,
way.
Do you think he'll be backed? Because I can't make what I make of Alan Pace. I think some of the things that comes out of his mouth are a load of old tosh, but he owns a football club and I don't anymore, so perhaps that's unfair. But do you think your guy will get backed?
I think Kompany got backed. And so I can only go off that, really. When I think Kompany was in Alan Pace's boy, if you will. Yeah. He was the big name that he wanted to bring Burnley club. A relatively new chairman. He was a big name of Premier League years gone by, and Pace backed him. So to that, yes. The Scotland's of the same, Parker's of the same ilk. He was a Premier League big name for a while as a player. So I can only go off what I've seen. So yeah, I think he will. I want to ask you a question actually. So in the bar yesterday before the game, someone said to me, if you were to go through every Championship team as it stands now, Leeds and Burnley still in there as well, and hand-pick 20 players, do you think you could pick a squad big and good enough to remain in the Premier League? And I don't think you can.
Do you not?
No, I don't think there's goal scorer in there good enough to score 10 plus goals in the Premier League.
It's not a bad question, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny because I was watching Leeds on Saturday, and they were playing away at Oxford, and I was watching it with an absolute rabid Leeds fan. He's the former chairman of Huddersfield, ironically. And one of the observations that was being made was the quality. And this is the side that's sitting on top of the league, which was, there's a gap here. We're going to need to put some money into supplementing the quality in this side. But there's also some very good players on the field. The fullbacks at Leeds I thought were very good. So listen, it's about a collective. Forest have stayed up. It's about a collective, and I think Burnley making it difficult to beat. I think you could give a few teams trouble next year.
Lee, thank you for the call and thanks for the time. Mickey is a big Leeds fan. Mickey, you're back, but again, same question to you, mate. Can you stay there?
Absolutely, Jim. I'm just on my way back up to Scotland. I travelled down for the games with my boy, and what a night last night it was. And I tell you what, Burnley, credit to them, their defence has been magic. I think Leeds and Burnley are well placed. You've got to remember, Farker is getting judged on what he did at Norwich. And Simon, you back me up here. How ambitious have Norwich been in the past when they've come up?
Non-existent, yeah.
Hopeless, absolutely hopeless. Right, I'm saying this, right. How many games have we lost this year? I think it's 4. How many goals have Burnley conceded? You see Spurs, the way they're sitting now, they're pathetic. Man United, pathetic.
Yes.
West Ham, pathetic. They better get their acts together, because I tell you what, Leeds and Burnley are coming for them.
Oh, I love it. That's the stuff, Mickey. I love it.
It's interesting that the previous caller from Burnley suggested that Vincent Kompany had been backed. He was given 40 million quid. So let's again get context. 40 million quid on a Championship squad isn't going to get you very far.
Right. Brian is a Norwich fan who wants to say in Daniel Farke. Brian, good morning. Go for it.
Yeah, good morning. I think the biggest mistake Daniel Farke has made when he's got to the Premiership is not changing his style. I would say that one of the main reasons Alex Ferguson stays a great manager for so long was that he continually changed his backroom staff, got new ideas in. Daniel didn't do that. Even when we went back down again, he still didn't change things. His backroom staff and that.
Right.
And I think that is what a manager's got to do. And going on what Simon said about Ange, last couple of callers saying how we weren't, we weren't good enough to stay in there because we didn't try.
Yeah.
Is Simon saying that we had to go into so much debt that club, our club, could have become non-existent?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all.
Well, you are, because you're saying we only spent the money we had.
I'm saying that your risk
Delia was not a multi-millionaire.
I hear that.
In the sense of...
But let me flip that on its head and say, if you go up to the Premier League and you get 120 million in TV revenues, plus the increased revenue you get from your shirt sponsors and the broadcast, and the merchandise, and everything goes up exponentially, right? Because I've done it and seen it and been it, and you spend 9 million quid, I think you've got to do a bit better than that. I don't think you've got to put yourself in hock. I agree with you.
Agreed. You don't put yourself in hock. And
I agree with that too.
That is what our fans wanted as well.
You've got to get a balance, though, haven't you? It's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
But 9 million quid is the wrong side of the balance, isn't it?
Sorry?
Do you agree that going up to and getting promoted with Norwich and spending 9 million quid is the wrong side of the balance? Because that's what you spent.
Yes. Yeah. I quite agree.
Yeah.
Spending that little didn't help us, but it was also a case of when we sold Maddison, we were very close to going into administration. You know, we had to sell, and we always have to sell players.
Brian, one thing's for sure, you'd love to be in Leeds' position this morning under Daniel Farke, but unfortunately you ain't. Brian, thank you very much indeed. It would be remiss of us not to question why Leicester have had such an indifferent season. Southampton down, and a desperately poor season from them. They've won 2 in 33 and they sit rooted at the foot with 11 points. They've gone. Now Leicester have gone too. In 19th position. They've won 4 in 33 and have managed to amass 18 points. 4 wins in 33 all season long, with Leicester losing 16 of 20 games under Ruud van Nistelrooy. We're going to look at this Leicester situation in detail in a second. This was Van Nistelrooy after the latest defeat at the hands of Liverpool.
I'm focused on and I'm taking my responsibility to do the best things for this football club, taking it into the future, next season. And performances like the Brighton and the Liverpool game are signs that players are willing to do that and develop and take it, finish the season the best way possible and take it into next season, because the new season will start and continue and in the Championship for this football club next season. So you have to take the responsibility, and that's what I'm doing for the next 5 weeks, and after that we have to see.
So after that we have to see. Premier League champions, Simon, FA Cup winners, and Champions League football followed by 2 relegations. Has any club experienced a bigger decade of extremes than Leicester City?
No, you've seen the dizzy heights of winning a Premier League as an outlier and building a very formidable set of players that everyone else wanted to buy, whether it be Mahrez or whether it be Drinkwater or whether it be N'Golo Kante, whoever else that they had poached off them. I mean, the constant theme for that was Jamie Vardy, who didn't go to Arsenal, and you have to be commended for that, having the loyalty or a lack of ambition, depends where you want to look at it, for staying at Leicester. I mean, there's a part of me that's quite glad Leicester got relegated. I think they bucked the system. I think they broke the rules and they got around it by legalese, which isn't what football's about. But football also isn't about PSR, so it shouldn't be about that either.
They got within the rules. They didn't break the rules.
No,
they got within them.
No, they got in between the wall and the wallpaper, and they created an opportunity based upon a Bermuda Triangle of bad rule
But they
drafting.
found a loophole, and the Premier League have now changed that.
Yeah, they found a loophole to avoid the challenges of the which was unfair on the rest of the clubs in the Championship. They were able to get around the rules in the Championship by saying they were in the Premier League when they were asked to comply with the Championship rules, and when they were in the Championship, they weren't able to be caught by the Premier League.
No, but that was one of the few wins that Leicester can actually boast they had.
Correct, but I didn't much appreciate it, and I didn't much appreciate it's very nice for Nick DeMarco to lie in his pocket, and if you ever want to get a business in sport, own a legal firm, that's more money in it, because it's now a proper industry. But
there's part of you that's glad then that they've dropped.
Well, I think they've got their just rewards to some extent. I think they've also been unfortunate to some extent because they lost their manager. So a manager that got them out of the division was immediately taken away from them. So they didn't have that opportunity. They didn't fancy Steve Cooper. And like a lot of these Leicester fans, they've not fancied managers over the years, and their managers have gone. And they got Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in. Ruud van Nistelrooy would never have got the job in a million years if he hadn't have had 4 games in charge of Manchester United. And that was the credentials. I know that we've spoken to various Dutch journalists that told us that he would be fine and he would be a good coach, and he was a good coach and did a good job at PSV.
Yeah.
But it was not a parallel universe where that fella was getting a job if he hadn't have played Leicester twice as the Man United manager. Right, let's have it right.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, I don't know what Ruud van Nistelrooy is all about. I don't know whether he's been given a very unfair deck of cards. That means you can't judge him in the here and now. But you don't bring a manager in to make things worse. You bring a manager in to make things better. And so the fact they've gotten worse indicates a certain challenge to overcome. He obviously thinks he's staying, or he's talking a good game for the purpose of holding
he's
the
trying
line
to.
for whoever's purpose it's on.
Yeah.
They haven't spent a lot of money. They haven't spent a lot of money for a few years now, the Leicester owners, and they're entitled not to have to spend money every single year if they don't wish to. And this Leicester ownership model has been obviously steeped in tragedy, but very good for that football club in so many ways. And they've now got to go back and rebuild. Now, whether Van Nistelrooy, to say in isolation, well, would you keep him if you were the owner of Leicester? I can only answer that by being the owner of Leicester, knowing what hand I gave him.
Well, look at what Dragon Solite did, Simon, at Southampton with Ivan Juric. He binned him off.
Yeah, because
there's still a bunch of games to play.
It was a bad appointment in the first place. It was a head scratcher in the first place. Van Nistelrooy, okay, again, I think it was a bit of a head scratcher. I think it was lazy appointments because it looked like, Ruud van Nistelrooy, good name, got a bit of credentials, did okay at PSV, last 4 games at Man United. I mean, you could have got a bounce at Man United because the games that Man United played under his management and with the crowd behind him gave him that little bounce.
Yeah.
But Van Nistelrooy would have sunk like a stone at Man United if he'd stayed any longer, and all of that would have gone away. So the thing is, has he given you any cause to believe that he can deal with the consequences of the requirements next season, which is Leicester have got to bounce back? Because right now the answer has to be no. But the question is, why has it sunk like a stone with him there?
Yeah.
And if you as an ownership model know that you didn't give him the helping hands that he would have required to affect the outcomes, then you're almost duty bound to give him another spin of the wheel.
Yeah.
But only they know that.
You know, not enough people speak out and say, look, it's on us. And Jamie Vardy has done that. And his final line on his Instagram account, this season has been nothing but miserable. And for me personally, a total embarrassment. It hurts. And I know you're feeling it too, the fans. So to the fans, I'm sorry. Sorry we haven't performed, and sorry we end the 25 season with such a show. He hasn't hung about. He's like, it's on us. We messed up. And sorry to you guys out there.
It was a statement.
He's right.
Well, he's right by stating the obvious. But why was that? What is it you didn't have? What were you not given? Were you good enough to achieve it?
Because but at least he's saying that though, Simon. Listen to Romero this morning at Tottenham. Yeah, I cannot wait to play in La Liga.
But context is everything. I have to say, in all fairness to the conversation that we're trying to create here around Romero, we don't know the context in which he was asked this question and what the full length and breadth of what he actually said.
Yeah,
so it's
he's
not
got form on this.
Well, again, he's got form because he's been asked before, and again, the questions have to be given context. Look, the bottom line is that Vardy's stayed with Leicester for a long time. He's very popular. I think his race is run as an elite footballer in terms of being able to play in the Premier League, be able to give the kind of attainment that's required. But I still think he was a very useful squad player for Leicester this season. Yeah. And when he did play, was able to play, I think, you saw him at the beginning of the season. He gave Tottenham a hard time in the first or second game of the season, didn't he? And obviously gave it back to the Tottenham fans, reminding them of who's won a Premier League title. But I always find those sort of things.
Why bother?
Why are you doing it, mate? Why are you doing it? What's the purpose of it? So that you can be popular with those that are shouting and screaming about the unhappiness they've got. You were part of it. There's more dignity and discipline in accepting that politely. It's like someone who gives money to charity and tell everybody they give money to charity. If you want to give money to charity, give it to charity. You haven't got to broadcast it.
Yeah, keep it quiet. Burnley go up with Leeds United to the Premier League. During their game, Burnley's game against Sheffield United, Burnley posted on Twitter a message for the fans at Turf Moor today. Burnley Football Club continues to support the Love of Football Protect the Game campaign. We're asking for your support to ensure that the actions of the minority do not spoil the game for all. So, 5 minutes after that, the final whistle blows and fans descended onto the pitch. This Love Football Protect the Game is a cross-football campaign implemented by the FA, incidentally, the Premier League and the EFL. And it included a range, Simon, of fan behaviour issues, including pitch invasions. So maybe they didn't say it in so many words, but they didn't want you invading your own pitch. And yet, many of you did. Sheffield United's Hamza Chowdhury was one of the Sheffield United players who appeared to be goaded by some Burnley fans after him filming them for his reaction on their phones. And I think Chris Wilder, spoke about that post-match.
Well, we were told by the referee before that we'll be getting stewards surrounding us, but I think they went on the missing list, completely went on the missing list. So, yeah, it was quite scary out there in the end, where there's people coming and doing bits and pieces. Understandable that their emotions are running high. But I didn't think we got protected by the football club and the stewards at all one bit, and the referee, when I spoke to him afterwards, he noticed that as well. So I suppose when 20 or 30 lads, 40, 50 lads are running at you, shouting bits and pieces and doing bits and pieces, just at the end of a game, it's quite difficult just to get off. But I'll be absolutely stunned if anything comes our way on any of that.
Yeah, easy. Was it nothing bad was said to him? Nothing easy.
Of course, it's going to be bad said to him. What are they going to say? Unlucky and well done and all the best in the playoffs.
Nothing past the line.
Dear me, and well done. Yeah, shake hands. Yeah, well done.
So they were asked not to, but a sizable number of Burnley fans came on the pitch.
Yep.
Has football got to start adding teeth to its messaging? Why didn't they have a line in there, Burnley, during the game? Do not invade the pitch.
They should have done, shouldn't they? They should have done, and they'll get a fine.
These campaigns don't seem to work,
In this instance, I would be the first person.
Mealy-mouthed wording.
Well, again, I always think that I was arguing against the principle of Millwall being, as a football club, fined for the ridiculous moronic chance of a small segment of their fan base at Selhurst Park, and saying what would you have the club do? In this instance, I'd be more robust in my language if I were Burnley. This idea of pitch invasions that a couple of years ago were basically centred in, we don't want this anymore, and now it's dissipated again. The interest has dissipated off, and ultimately football doesn't have a strong message about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Wilder, wants to wind his neck in a few weeks ago, he was singing "Mind the Gap" to Sheffield Wednesday fans and getting altercations on the field with other teams' players because he didn't like the fact they were celebrating at their home ground. So I'm not entirely sure that I take too much notice of what he's saying in that instance. Maybe taking 6 points out of the last 6 games is where you need to be focused, Chris, because in a situation where you've lost all your momentum. But they should have kept the fans off the field, and they should have been more meaningful about it, and they should have been more resolute in their determination to stop them from doing it. Because 2 years ago we were having this conversation about pitch invasions, and I maintain the view, as much as people might think it's an old curmudgeon miserable sod, I maintain the view because I've been on the receiving end of fines, and I don't think that I should pay a fine because you want to run on the football field. The safety aspect of it, how many people have been hurt by pitch invasions over the years? We've had a few instances where Patrick Vieira got himself involved in a situation. We had some issues with Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest a few years ago, which I in part was the players baiting the crowd, by the way.
I remember that.
A few of the players giving it the big one with the crowd.
I remember that. But in general terms, you've got to negate risk, haven't you?
Sure. But again, I ask the question, how many times have we seen players on pitch invasions celebrating promotions being a situation where someone's been hurt? I think very limited. Does that mean it shouldn't be done? Does football want to stop it? Clearly it doesn't. So the clubs can't complain when they get fines, because if you wanted to stop it, you could have employed our old mates at the old Bill, because they'll take the ticket on that and give you a price for that job.
Yeah.
And you could have put it all around the stadium, policing, stopping all the fans coming on, add that stewards to it, and stop them from coming on.
But football wants to stop it. They want to stop it, but it's how they stop it. The Love Football Protect the Game is a cross-football campaign implemented by the FA, Premier League and the EFL. So they're all into it.
But they want to pay lip service to it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not difficult. Burnley were likely to get promoted, right?
Correct.
In that game yesterday.
Yeah.
So if you don't want a pitch invasion, because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out there's going to be some sort of situation where... So why don't you police it properly? Why don't you line the entire perimeter of the football stadium with stewards and police.
Yeah.
And absorb the additional cost. Because guess what? If that extra 20 or 30,000 might cost you for that game, will probably be the 20 or 30,000 that you now get as a fine for the pitch invasion, and also comes out of the pot of the 120 million that you're getting from the Premier League. So why didn't you put a flag down and stop it?
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to, because you're not bothered by it.
It is a criminal offence to go on the pitch.
But, well, not that much of a criminal offence, because it hasn't stopped anyone from doing it, has it?
No, exactly. Exactly.
How many people were arrested?
But the FA pushed that a couple of years back.
How many were arrested? Because obviously we were talking about the other day criminalisation of tailgating and the enforcement of it, and I was making the argument, oh, that's wonderful. What's the enforcement idea of this? So why weren't a load of people nicked yesterday?
Yeah. No, I agree.
If that's a criminal offence.
I agree. I mean, as a former owner, and say you were an owner of a club now though, Simon, would you be pushing for this to be stopped once and for all? All pitch invasions, not going to happen. They don't happen. It can't happen. Didn't happen to Ellen Road. No. It happened here.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't happen. So stop it.
Well, it's a balancing act. You know, I remember a pitch invasion at Selhurst Park when we beat Sunderland in the playoff semi-final, first leg at Selhurst Park, and the Palace fans got onto the field. And I went on with the stewards and got them off because I didn't think it was necessary. It was also the first leg. Right, so I thought that Code and Sunderland go back up to their place and get beat is not a good look. But there's this balance in my mind between football forever and a day has glorified it and said it's wonderful. And all the commentators go, look at this wonderful moment when Jimmy Glass scored a goal in the last minute and Carlisle stayed up and all the fans were on the pitch celebrating and XYZ and whatever else we can think of over the years. Nobody really got hurt. All of a sudden, football then decided that our wonderful players that are so important can't be approached anymore. They can't be asked for autographs. They can't be asked to sign shirts because it's an invasion of their privacy, and fans can't go on the field. Now we want to say that's a risk attached to it because someone could bring a knife into the stadium, someone could do this, and someone could do the other. But then football doesn't approach it properly. If it wants to do that, then mean it.
Yes.
But it doesn't, does it?
No.
So it blurs the line.
It needs to mean it. The language has got to be stronger because God forbid, but somebody yesterday could have produced something.
But it makes me sound like a miserable old sod because part of me wants to turn around and say, why don't you just do as you're told? You don't have a right to go on the field. And then on the other side of it, I think football asks for it.
Yeah.
So the poor fans don't know whether they're Arthur or Martha. Because one minute they're told they can do something, the next minute they're told they can't, then they're told there's absolute consequences for it, then there's no consequences for it, then they've been over the years introduced to the idea that it's just celebrating, and now they've been told it's a pitch invasion, and half of them don't know what they're doing in terms of, they know they shouldn't go on the field, but they also know that it's been tacitly accepted over the years.
Yeah.
Besides, a couple of times over the last couple of years where people aren't accepting it. So the club should have been saying, we are not going to tolerate this. If you go on the field, you will not have a season ticket next season for Burnley in the Premier League.
There you go.
Over to you guys.
Only way to do it. There's Guy. These pitch invasions absolutely infuriate me. Why do people have the urge to run onto the pitch?